And so our ongoing playthrough of Order and Opportunity, making of the post-Cold War world order, continues. The US is up, and as is familiar from the previous videos, we start again by revealing a development card. We get the Palestine question. That is a card that does not override the currently showing card, so we place the Palestine question here as an upcoming event and place Private Capital Search for Profit onto the map. It says places a horizon event in a random region, so we will roll the die. I get a 6, so it's a reroll. 5 is the designation for the Middle East, and so we place it down here as a horizon event. It's called a horizon event whenever it's in the landscape orientation, whenever a card is in the landscape orientation. And here are the horizon event slots, 3 for each region. And so we move to the opportunities segment. The US can check the map for opportunities that it may be able to resolve. Required are 2 levels of influence in an opportunity space. Opportunity spaces are spaces with these diamond-shaped markers. There isn't anything at the moment for the US to resolve, so we pass straight to the commands segment. And here we look at the US hand and may start planning our turn a little bit. It's always opportune to play the cards of a given suit that you have most of, and so we will probably do this here as well. We will nominate the economic suit, play these 2 cards, and whenever you play 2 or more cards of a given suit, you are subject to so-called consequences. The consequences from economic actions, the consequence of it is polarization, which we drop here in the US home space, indicating 1 level of polarization in the US. And then the US player may proceed to play these cards. The US will use the Wall Street card here with an eye on triggering the so-called momentum effect here, so giving us a chance to play more cards during this turn. And the way to trigger it is to establish control using that card. And so we increase economic influence here in Central America. Cost us 1 resource. We are down to 0 resources. We can go into debt up to -4. So, but there is a debt check card in play which has already come out, so we may be reasonably confident that we can go into debt without having to face the check. So we've played this card, discarded, and we've earned the right to play a second command. So as a reminder, let's take that additional command reminder marker there. What do we do with the second card? So here's a consideration. So we've got the Weapons of Mass Destruction world event here in South Asia, and one of the consequences of this card, if it's not resolved by the end of the 4th round of play, before we enter the so-called globalization phase, is that democracies will both have to lose 1 victory point. So that's the US and the EU. Currently, China is in the position to resolve the world event, so they are going to do us a favor if they indeed do resolve the world event. We could, however, try to benefit from this if we pull equal here with our economic influence to cancel out or to block, as the game calls it, Chinese control in the space. We could still choose to lift the block and allow them to resolve the Weapons of Mass Destruction world event, but they would have to give us in return 1 of these so-called agenda point markers. So this represents sort of our participation in the political process that goes on to resolve the world event. Here, the danger here is, of course, that the Chinese will then not resolve the world event. So we're playing a little bit with fire there. The other option where I can see us being able to use the military industrial complex card here is to increase our economic influence to 2 here in the Middle East, with an eye on using the private capital development event that is in play here to bring in the Middle East scoring card. And so when that card then gets eventually played and triggered during the globalization phase, then we would score a victory point if we still maintained our control there. Downside is that that will cause the Arab Spring process to potentially move forward. There will be a check whether destabilizing effects from that Arab Spring process are going to occur. So it's a little bit risky, but let's do it. So we will go into the Middle East and increase our economic influence there by 1. And so that card has been played. And so we have the second command here as the US, and so let's take advantage of that. We have these cards in hand. I quite like to keep the American Dream in hand, so it allows us to avoid a check should one come our way. We could play cultural, or we could play the security suit card here. I'm tempted to put some reaction abilities onto the map, so let's play this card proxy. So we take advantage of our proxy forces in the Middle East, also with an eye on building up our economic influence over here in Levant, ultimately to resolve the Syrian civil war situation. And so we put the card down simply for its reaction ability here. Should anyone play an economic or military action there, including ourselves, we would get to react by spending a resource and placing an economic political influence there. So that seems like a good way to pursue our objectives in the Middle East. And then finally we go into the planning segment, and this is where we can discard 1 card and include 1 into our hand. Let's get the Benevolent Hegemon card into play. It's got the momentum effect, and it's got a useful event effect here as well. We get to add to our resources based on our military presence on the map. So that's good. And do we want to thin our deck a little bit so that we get the cards that we like to draw? So let's do that. Let's get rid of this card, put it down here into the so-called planning row, and then finally we proceed to drawing the US hand to 5 cards. And so we're looking at this sort of a little bit of a mixed hand going into the next turn, but we'll worry about that when it's time. And now next up we've got the EU.